Welcome! In this explainer, we're diving into the pretty wild history of islands that showed up on maps for centuries, islands that explorers searched for, and then they just weren't there anymore. I mean, how does that even happen? How can a whole island exist and then just vanish? Well, to get to the bottom of it, we're going to start with a really strange and stubborn mystery from the high Arctic, a place where the world can play tricks on your eyes. So, our story really kicks off with a place called Sannikov Land. For over 100 years, this was a total enigma up in the Arctic, something that haunted mapmakers and tempted explorers to push further and further into the ice. And what's so incredible here is just how long this idea persisted. You have to remember, Jakub Sannikov wasn't some rookie. This guy was a seasoned explorer. He'd already discovered actual, real islands. So when he said he saw land, people believed him. For 127 years, Sannikov Land was a real place on maps, a destination, before Soviet icebreaker finally sailed right through it and proved it was nothing but empty sea.
But here's the thing, Sannikov Land wasn't some weird one-off mistake. Turns out, it was just one of many ghost islands that have appeared on our maps throughout history. It was a global phenomenon. You had, for instance, the legendary island of Hy-Brasil. For hundreds of years, maps showed this magical place just west of Ireland. The story went that it was always shrouded in mist and you could only see it once every 7 years.
And then there was Crocker Land. In 1906, the famous American explorer Robert Peary was on top of a mountain in Greenland and claimed he saw a huge new landmass in the distance. He named it after his rich backer, which, probably helped get funding for an expedition that turned out to be a very expensive, very difficult, and very fruitless trip to find a place that didn't exist.
Or how about Pepys Island? Back in 1683, a guy named Ambrose Cowley reported a new island, and it got charted on maps for years. But eventually, people figured out it was just a simple mistake. He'd seen the Falkland Islands, but his navigation was off by about 4 degrees. Oops.
So, and this is the really important part, we're not talking about lost lands like Atlantis, places that legends say sank beneath the waves. Phantom Islands were places people thought were still there, right now, places they were actively trying to get to, but could just never seem to find. Which, of course, leads to the big question. How did so many islands that weren't real end up on our maps to begin with? Were all these famous explorers just making stuff up? Well, the truth is, the causes are all over the place. It could be anything from a superior mirage, which is this wild optical illusion in polar regions that can make things below the horizon look like they're floating in the air, to just simple human error. Sometimes it was an iceberg or a fog bank. Sometimes an island really was there but got washed away. And my personal favorite, sometimes mapmakers would stick a fake island on their map on purpose just to catch other people who were trying to plagiarize their work. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's circle back to our original mystery, Sannikov Land. Was it a mirage, a simple mistake, or was something else going on entirely? The theory that most people subscribe to now is maybe the most mind-bending of all. It suggests that Sannikov Land was real. It was likely a huge chunk of permafrost, basically fossilized ice with a layer of soil on top. It was a leftover from the last ice age that, as the climate warmed, just melted away into the ocean. And this is where the story takes this incredible turn, because the search for this phantom island has accidentally led researchers to a discovery that might just rewrite what we know about ancient human life in the Arctic. It turns out the myth of Sannikov Land might not have been about a mirage of land in the distance at all. It might have been something deeper. An echo, a kind of cultural memory of a very real world that was lost long, long ago. Let's go back in time, about 9,000 years. Back then, sea levels were a lot lower than they are today. A huge chunk of the Siberian coastal plain that's now underwater was actually dry land. It was a vast, open landscape. And get this, right there on what's now called Zhukov Island, part of the exact same island group where Sannikov saw his phantom land, archaeologists found hard evidence of a Stone Age community. And these people weren't just scraping by. Oh no, they were thriving. This was a year-round settlement. They had a complex economy, hunting reindeer and even polar bears. And they had seriously advanced tech for the time, including the oldest dog sleds ever discovered. They were living on a real Stone Age Sannikov Land, a huge, cold, grassy plain full of life. So what if the legend wasn't a physical illusion? What if it was a cultural memory, a story passed down for thousands of years? A memory of a real world that was slowly being swallowed by the rising sea at the end of the Ice Age. A memory of a vast northern land that was always just out of reach. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The story of Sannikov Land shows how our hunt for something that isn't there can sometimes lead us to a truth that's far older and way more profound than we ever could have imagined. So, what phantom islands do you think exist on our maps of knowledge today? What widely held beliefs of our time will one day turn out to be mirages, hiding an even deeper reality we haven't found yet?